Hey there. Welcome to Watch Recap, and today, I will recap a drama, action movie called Fists of Legend. Okay, so let's start. Fists of Legend is a television mixed martial arts tournament that shows former legendary street fighters in a cage. They put young men and middle-aged fighters in a cage for a deadly fight. Fighters risks their lives mostly because of the $20,000 prize money. In the first round, they go against a professional fighter and have to survive 2 minutes to win. Then they will have to defeat their old school bully to win the prize. This whole concept of old rivalry is why this show is famous. As the movie begins, we see a young man fighting 14 people alone and defeats them. For this he becomes famous as the One Man. But this was 23 years ago. Now the One Man is in his 40s and owns a fried chicken restaurant. He's financially not well and so has come to Fists of Legend. In the first round, he fights a professional fighter but is so out of shape and weak now, he loses in the first round and is sent home without any money. The second fighter defeated an entire group of gangsters when he was young, still better than One Man, but he couldn't survive for 2 minutes in the second round. The third guy is a tough one, reaching the second round and lasting for 1 minute 30 seconds. He also survives a 30 seconds choke and reaches the third round. The third round is intense as he goes against his childhood bully, and defeating him he finally wins the prize. The scene shifts to Lim Deok Q, who is 43 years old and owns a noodle restaurant but was a street fighter and boxer in his old days, and was so close to Olympics but couldn't make it due to some problem. Gi Yu Min, the director of Fists of Legend show, comes to him with a proposal for the show. Lim Deok doesn't want to fight but the prize money seeks his attention. After this, he goes to his in-laws' house. Lim Deok's wife died few years ago and since then her daughter Sue Bin lived with her grandparents. Lim Deok notices Sue is upset about something, and the next morning we see him apologizing to her school principal as Sue stabbed her bully with a pencil. He kneels asking for forgiveness and promises to pay the hospital bill. He later shares with Sue how he used to be a bully in his school days, and finds slapping and punching better than stabbing. He is financially weak nowadays, and also needs money for the hospital bill and so decides to fight in Fists of Legend. Meanwhile, Gi Yu Min calls Lim Deok's school friend and former street fighter Sang Hoon, offering him to fight against Lim Deok in the ring for $20,000, but Sang Hoon refuses to fight. Sang Hoon works as a manager in a big corporation run by his school friend Jin Hoo, who is mean, rich, and treats him like trash. He feels like a slave to him and finds it unfair how Jin is rich because of his rich father and got all of this doing nothing. That day, Jin Hoo hits a woman and abuses his waiters as usual. But Sang Hoon have to clean the mess for him. Later, Lim visits Fists of Legend to participate in a fight. Since he used to be a professional boxer back in the days, he is better than other middle-aged fighters. In the first round he seems to be weak, but his opponent underestimates him and then Lim knocks him out with an uppercut, making everyone go speechless. In the final round, he have to fight his school classmate Jae Sok. This guy is chosen as Sang Hoon refused to fight. They begin the fight with weak moves but then goes wild. In the end, Lim wins the fight and $20,000 prize money. Gi Yu Min now wants him to fight more for her, but Lim says he doesn't need more money. Jae and Lim meets after the fight and remember their school days. They decide to meet for a coffee some day before leaving. A flashback shows us Lim in high school. He wanted to represent South Korea in Olympics, and was practicing hard for it. One day on his way to home, he saw some school rivals beating his juniors. Lim saw Jae Sok for the first time here. He then defeats all of them and saves his juniors. He gets popular because of this, so Sang Hoon and Jin Hoo comes to Lim for the first time and since then became friends. Jae Sok couldn't bear his defeat and comes to teach Lim a lesson, but was defeated by Lim's new friend Sang Hoon. One day, Jin Hoo, Sang Hoon, and Lim Deok were sitting in a park where Jin offers them to fight for $200. As mentioned before, he's a spoiled kid who loves money, and his father's influence helps him get away doing anything. But then, Jae arrives there and challenges Lim for a duel fight. Lim lets Jae take out his anger and invites him in the group, so that's how they became friends. They were best friends and best fighters too. Jin inherited his father's wealth while Sang became his manager cum servant. As the Fists of Legend telecasts Lim's fight on TV, he gains popularity and his restaurant also becomes famous, and now he earns well. But his mom forces him to fight again to maintain the popularity of his restaurant. So Lim fights again and wins, and also impresses the audience when he picked up his defeated opponent and checked if he's alright. Later, he buys a tablet for Sue as she's very good at drawing, and Lim supports her dream to become an artist. While they were eating in a restaurant, Sue's classmates comes and recognizes Lim, but she seems to get nervous. Lim then wins several fights in Fists of Legend, becoming everyone's favorite and makes the show popular. His friends Sang and Jae also watches him fight and cheers for him. One day, Lim is invited to a high school reunion by his juniors. All of his juniors are so proud of him. Lim shows gratitude by offering to pay for their meals. But one of his juniors accuses him of bullying and making their lives difficult. Lim regrets how he with his friends used to bully his juniors. He realizes he was a bad person before. We see a flashback when Lim sees Sang bullying kids for the first time. Lim didn't like to oppress those who are weak. He insults Sang and calls him a leech who lives on Jin's money. But they talk again the next morning. Sang says he doesn't like to use Jin's money but has to be friends with him as his father works as a driver for Jin's father. Lim now begins to understand his friend better. Today is the selection day for 1988's Summer Olympics. The group cheers for Lim as he fights his opponent and knocks him out. But shockingly, the opponent becomes the winner. Everyone is shocked, and when the coach asks the judges, they say that Lim doesn't have the family background to represent South Korea in the Olympics. Lim is devastated by this and starts drinking and bullying other peoples. This is the time when he bullied the guy who insulted him during the reunion. The group even fights off gangsters. They become fearless teenagers who fight anyone who comes in their way. But one day the police caught them fighting and arrests them. Back in the present, Gyu Min is still trying to convince Sang to fight Lim. Jin is Gyu's friend, and so Jin orders Sang to do as Gyu says. Jin even says that Sang might be humiliated in the show, but if this helps the company, it's good. Sang has no choice but to accept the offer. Later, when Lim was in the restaurant, his daughter comes in being beaten up by the bullies. Lim asks who did this, but the poor girl is traumatized and cries. Sue's classmate comes and tells Lim about the bullies, and takes him to a secluded area where the bullies are. The girl is one of them and was asked to bring Lim here so the kids can beat him and become famous. Lim refuses to fight kids, but then they reveal that Sue never stabbed a girl, instead she's a shy girl and was blamed by her bullies who actually stabbed the girl. Lim realizes that all this time when he was bragging to her daughter how he used to bully kids, her own daughter was being bullied. He rages out on them and defeats them all with no efforts. He later apologizes to her daughter for not being able to protect her, and Sue forgives her father. The day comes and Lim enters the ring to fight Sang. Everyone is excited for this match, as two childhood best friends will fight each other for the prize. The fight begins, but Lim misses many shots and is surprisingly defeated by Sang. Being his best friend, Sang knows Lim lost the fight on purpose. Sang is welcomed by his colleagues cheering for his victory. Jin also praises him, but he also knows that Lim lost on purpose. Jin wants to know if Sang can still fight like before, and so calls 3 men to fight Sang. But Sang shouts at him for the first time, refusing to fight. When threatened to be fired, Sang says he is quitting the job himself. Now being jobless, Sang is worried for his family. He calls his son and asks him to choose any college he wants, saying he can pay any amount of fees. Somewhere else, Gyu comes with an idea to increase the rating of the show by organizing an 8-player knockout tournament named Match of Legends and advertises it everywhere. The show becomes a hit even before releasing, and the fighters starts training for the tournament. Lim refuses to fight for this but agrees when Sue asks him to follow his ambition. He visits the training center where Sang is also getting trained. The two meet and still has the same relation as before. A flashback shows us when the group was in prison, but Jin was immediately released because of his father, while the others were approached by a policeman asking them to follow him. He takes them to a gangster named An. An takes them to a place and asks them to stab a man 3 times and return to the car. If they do it, he will give them work in his company. Jae agrees right away while Lim and Sang are nervous. Lim and Sang thinks of escape, but Jae proceeds to do the task. The two checks and finds the car has left without them, as they have been trapped. Sang runs away while Lim goes to help Jae, but Lim also has to escape as the cops arrive and Jae is arrested. Back in the present, Jae visits Lim and asks him to come with him. He takes Lim to meet An, who now owns a betting company and offers Lim $200,000 if he can lose in the match of legends. Jae already had taken the money to lose in the fight, while Lim thinks for a moment but then takes the money and leaves. Jae later says he's ashamed of Lim for accepting the deal while he did the same. On the day of tournament, the auditorium is filled with crowd excited to watch the fight. An is among the crowd waiting for the match to begin. Sue goes in the back room to meet her father and wishes him luck. Lim introduces Sang and Jae as uncles to her. The tournament begins and the show's rating grows higher and higher with each fight. The three friend fights well, until Jae is made to fight Turtle, the guy who Jae is paid to lose to by An. Even though Jae promised to tap out the first time, he fights hard and tries his best to defeat Turtle. But eventually Jae tap out when he is choked by Turtle. Jae loses but still is happy he gave his best. Meanwhile, Sang fights brutally and wins several matches and reaches semifinal. He fights with all his will but injured his leg while making it to the finals. The commentator asks him if he wants to fight in the finals with a broken leg, to which he says yes. But when he was stepping out of the ring, he falls on the ground due to the pain in his leg. His leg is bandaged by the medics, but he still wants to fight the final match. Meanwhile, Lim reaches the semifinal and now have to fight Turtle. Turtle is confident knowing what will happen. In the first round, he manages to hold Lim in a chokehold but Lim frees himself. Turtle again holds him in an armbar but has to stop as the round goes over. In the second round, Lim manages to dominate Turtle in the fight, but is trapped in a guillotine choke by him. But yet again Lim frees himself, and reaches the final round. Lim beats Turtle to his knees, and even gives him a chance to fight back. Jae approaches An and gives him Lim's share of money and says Lim will now fight to win. With a final blow to his neck, Lim wins the match. The commentator asks him how he feels but Lim says he will not fight anymore and leaves. Giyu goes in the back room to bring Lim as the live show cannot stay on hold. Sang suggests if Lim doesn't fight, then he will get the prize money. Giyu likes the idea as she can name it on the television as, one friend chooses money and the other chooses friendship. Sang promises to share the prize money equally with Lim. In the last scene, we see Lim walking out with her daughter. Sue says he is proud of his father and wants to go back to her old school instead of transferring to a new school. This is where the movie ends. Subscribe to the channel if you love movies. Like and share the video, we appreciate it. See you again.